Long ago, in the land of Greece, there lived a hero named Heracles or Hercules. Hercules, born of Zeus, the mighty king of gods, and Alcmena, a beautiful mortal lady. The birth of Hercules brought out the jealousy, anger, and revenge in Hera, queen of Mount Olympus. Since Hera cannot punish her husband for his infidelities, she decided to make life unbearable for Hercules. Queen Hera had several failed attempts on Hercules' life since infancy. In his adulthood, Hera uses her powers to make Hercules temporarily mad. This madness makes Hercules mistake his families for monsters. He attacks these monsters and murdered all of them. Hera, satisfied with her revenge, dispelled her magic. With the illusion removed from his eyes, Hercules realized he has murdered his own family. Hercules, overwhelmed by grief and guilt, sought guidance from the Oracle of Delphi. The oracle's advice was clear: to seek redemption, he must serve King Eurystheus of Tiryns, and fulfill a series of tasks given by the king. Under Hera's command, Heracles was subjected to the 12 labors as the atonement for his sins. With great hesitation, Hercules accepted the challenge of the 12 labors, fully aware of the daunting and dangerous tasks that lay ahead, all in pursuit of redemption. Labor 1: Slaying the Nimian lion. With heavy heart full of guilt, Hercules asked the king what his first labor is. King Eurystheus informed him of a terrible lion that had been ravaging a community. The Nimian lion was a terrifying beast who wandered Nimian, taking women as prisoners and luring courageous men to save them. However, when the men tried to free the women, she would transform into the lion and eat them alive. Heracles went into the forest where the lion lived. He carried a big sword, ready to fight. The lion appeared suddenly, roaring loudly and showing its sharp teeth and claws. While looking for the lion, Hercules got few arrows at it, unaware that its golden fur was impenetrable. When Hercules spotted and shot the lion with his bow, the arrow bounced harmlessly off the creature's thigh, revealing the fur's defensive properties. After some time, Hercules forced the lion to return to his cave. The cave had 2 openings, one of which Hercules sealed before entering the other. In those dark and close confines, Hercules stunned the beast with his sword before strangling it to death. After killing the lion, he attempted to skin it with a knife from his belt, but was unsuccessful. Finally, Athena noticed the hero's dilemma and instructed him to skin the pelt with one of the lion's own claws. If you like this video, kindly subscribe. When he came with the lion's carcass on his shoulders, King Eurystheus was amazed and scared. Eurystheus forbade him from entering the city again. From that point forward, he was to display the fruits of his labors outside the city walls. Eurystheus would then communicate his tasks to him through a herald rather than in person. Eurystheus even had a big bronze jar built for him, so he could hide from Heracles if necessary. Eurystheus then warned him that the tasks would grow more tough. Labor 2: Slaying the Lernaean Hydra. The Lernaean Hydra was a monster that lived in Lake Lerna and was bred by Hera to kill Hercules. The Hydra had 9 heads, one of which was immortal, while the rest were mortal. When Hercules reached the swamp near Lake Lerna, where the Hydra lived, he covered his mouth and nose with a cloth to protect himself from the poisonous fumes. When he chopped one of the Hydra's heads, he noticed that 2 new heads would emerge. Hercules sought the assistance of his nephew, Iolaus, who devised the method of scorching the neck stumps after each decapitation with a firebrand. Heracles severed each head, and Iolaus cauterized the open stumps. Hera, angry that her side was losing the battle, dispatched a massive crab to distract Hercules. When it came time to cut off the immortal head, Hercules took a golden sword that Athena had given him, and the 2 of them were able to kill the monster by cutting the immortal head. When Eurystheus discovered that Heracles' nephew Iolaus had assisted him, he declared that the labor had not been completed alone, and thus did not count toward the 12 labors set for him. Labor 3. Capturing the Ceranian Hind. The Ceranian Hind, a sacred deer with golden antlers, roamed Cerania's forests under the watchful eye of Artemis, the goddess of hunting. Hercules' third labor tasked him with capturing this elusive creature alive, a dangerous and divinely scrutinized mission. Hercules, driven by his relentless pursuit, set out on a year-long hunt, tracking the hind across rugged terrain and verdant glades. Hercules, guided by his indomitable spirit and unwavering resolve, eventually cornered the hind and captured it with gentle hands that belied his mighty strength. However, Hercules' victory was tempered by the realization of his arrogance. Artemis, enraged by the capture of her sacred creature, confronted Hercules and demanded restitution for his transgressions. Ever mindful of divine retribution, Heracles promised to return the hind unharmed, appeasing the gods' wrath and honoring nature's sanctity. Labor 4. Capturing the Erymanthian boar. The Erymanthian boar, a massive beast, roamed the snow-covered slopes of Mount Erymanthus, wreaking havoc on the land and its inhabitants. Hercules required him to capture this ferocious creature alive. He pursued the boar through dense thickets and treacherous terrain as he journeyed to Erymanthus, the rugged wilderness. Hercules confronted the beast in its mountainous lair and subdued it with sheer strength and indomitable will, binding it in unbreakable chains. However, Heracles' victory was tempered by unexpected circumstances. On his way to deliver the boar to King Eurystheus, Heracles encountered Pholus, a centaur who unwittingly unleashed chaos on the world. In a fateful encounter, Hercules inadvertently sparked a conflict that resulted in Pholus' death and the purification of Chiron, the wise centaur. Labor 5. Cleaning the stables of Augeas in one day. The fifth labor of Hercules was to clean the Augean stables. These stables belonged to King Augeas, and they were incredibly filthy, because they hadn't been cleaned for a very long time. Thousands of cattle lived in these stables, and their waste had piled up over the years, making it one of the dirtiest places imaginable. Hercules had to clean these stables in just one day, which seemed like an impossible task. But Hercules was determined, and he came up with a clever plan to get the job done quickly. Instead of trying to clean the stables by hand, he diverted 2 nearby rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, to flow through the stables. The rushing waters of the rivers washed away all the filth and waste, leaving the stables clean and sparkling in just a single day. King Augeas was amazed and impressed by Heracles' feat, but he didn't keep his promise to reward Heracles, because he thought Heracles had help from the gods. Labor 6. Killing the Stymphalian birds. The Stymphalian birds, which were flying man-eating beasts, with wings formed of metallic feathers, and all belonged to the god of battle, Ares. The Stymphalian birds had all flocked to Lake Stymphalia, scaring the local residents. King Eurystheus sent Hercules to murder the Stymphalian birds as his next task. Hercules didn't succeed to venture too deep into the swamp. However, goddess Athena aided him by giving him a rattle. The sound of it drove the birds away, so they were an easy target. All that Hercules had to do was to draw out his bow and arrow and set the shafts on fire. He then used his poisonous arrows and shot the birds down. Hercules slayed 100 of the Stymphalian birds, and the remainder flew off. Hercules scooped up a dozen of the birds and delivered them back to King Eurystheus. If you like this video, kindly subscribe. Labor 7. Capturing the Cretan bull. The Cretan bull, a gigantic beast of extraordinary power and rage, roamed the sun-drenched fields of Crete, causing strife and devastation in its path. Hercules' 7th labor challenged him with catching this formidable beast alive. Journeying to the sun-kissed coasts of Crete, Hercules fought the bull, amidst the rolling fields and olive trees that decorated the island's beautiful scenery. He wrestled the bull into submission, bound it with thick ropes, fashioned from the finest fibers of ancient Greece. The cruel might of the bull, however, continued to sow discontent and conflict across the realm, thereby tempering Hercules' triumph. Despite the difficulties that lay ahead, Hercules was committed in his mission to vanquish the forces of darkness and bring peace to a world in chaos. Labor 8. Steal the mares of Diamides. The mares of Diamides were animals trained to eat human flesh, owned by Diamides, who was the cruel king of Thrace. The mares were wild and untamable, and Diamides had to keep them chained to a gold post to keep them from escaping and eating people. Hercules headed to Thrace, where Diamides kept his terrifying horses. When he arrived, he saw the horses eating in a field, their eyes shining with hunger. To approach the horses safely, he had to calm them down. He knew the horses were wild, because they had been fed human flesh, so he planned to use Diamides himself to calm them. Hercules vanquished Diamides in battle, and gave him to his own horses, giving the horses a taste of their master's flesh. With the horses temporarily satisfied, Hercules was able to catch them and return them to King Eurystheus, who had assigned him the labor. Eurystheus was impressed by Heracles' bravery and ability, but he was also terrified by the frightening beasts. Labor 9. Stealing the girdle of the queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta. Admete, Eurystheus' daughter, learnt that Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, had received a girdle as a gift from her father, Ares, and wanted it for herself. The Amazons were a tribe of female warriors. Hippolyta, the Amazons' queen, was youthful and attractive. So Eurystheus and Hera agreed to make this Hercules' 9th labor, locate the Amazons and return Hippolyta's miraculous girdle. Hercules set out to locate the Amazons, and when he arrived, he was welcomed graciously. Hippolyta agreed to give him her girdle. Hercules invited her to eat with him on the ship in private, and Hippolyta agreed. Hera began to spread rumors about Hercules' desire to capture their queen. The Amazons, enraged by Hercules' deception, rushed aboard Hercules' ship. Hercules observed the warrior ladies approaching in full battle formation. He quickly kissed Hippolyta, took her girdle, and sailed away, leaving her on the shore. Hercules sailed back to King Eurystheus and presented him with the Hippolyta girdle. Labor 10. Stealing the cattle of the monster Gion. Gion was a fearsome giant who lived in a distant land, beyond the sun-scorched plains and rugged mountains. He possessed a prized herd of cattle that were guarded fiercely by the triple-bodied giant. Hercules embarked on a perilous journey across vast seas and treacherous landscapes to reach the distant realm where Gion dwelled. Upon reaching Gion's kingdom, Hercules encountered the triple-bodied giant amidst the windswept plateaus and sun-scorched plains that decorated the area. Heracles faced Gion in an epic conflict that rang across the centuries, a clash of titans amid the bleak expanse of the unknown. Despite Gion's great power and savage attack, Hercules remained steady in his resolution, confronting the giant with unrivaled heroism and unshakable determination. He vanquished Gion, tying him with shackles fashioned in the furnaces of Hephaestus himself. Yet, the main test lied ahead, as he confronted the enormous job of capturing the coveted herd of cattle that grazed over the sun-scorched plains. With unshakable conviction and unrelenting drive, Heracles herded the cattle, directing them with soft hands that belied his enormous might. Labor 11. Stealing the Hesperian apples. The 11th task of Hercules was to deliver Eurystheus the golden apples, which belonged to Zeus, ruler of the gods. Hera presented these apples to Zeus as a wedding gift. These apples were preserved in a garden at the northern limit of the globe, and they were guarded not only by a 100-headed dragon, named Ladon, but also by the Hesperides, nymphs who were daughters of Atlas, the giant who supported the heavens and the earth upon his shoulders. Upon reaching the garden, Hercules encountered the Hesperides, nymphs tasked with the guarding of the precious apples. Undeterred by the difficult job ahead, Hercules sought the help of Atlas, a titan destined to bear the weight of the heavens upon his shoulders. In gratitude for his aid, Hercules volunteered to bore the load of the skies in Atlas' stead, while the giant fetched the apples from the orchard. With the apples of the Hesperides in his hands, Hercules proceeded on the trip back to civilization, his triumph immortalized in the annals of myth and legend. Labor 12, capturing Cerberus, guardian of the underworld. The ultimate task was to catch Cerberus, the three-headed hound, and protector of the underworld. Hercules departed on his final adventure. Hercules was hunting for the priest Eumolpus, who is most remembered for initiating the Eleusinian rituals. The Eleusinian mysteries were considered to provide bliss in the underworld for those who discovered their secrets. In the Eleusinian mysteries, Hercules learned how to go from the living world to the dead world and back. Hercules discovered the entrance to a cave at Taenirum. He was able to reach the depths of the underworld thanks to Hermes, where he encountered Hades. Hercules asked Hades if he could return Cerberus to the surface. Hades decided to not only provide Hercules safe passage back, but also to let him keep Cerberus. When Hercules spotted Cerberus, he seized him by the throat and fought him to the ground, before picking him up and throwing him over his shoulders. Hercules was able to return to the surface and rejoin King Eurystheus thanks to Athena's assistance. Hercules arrived to the king's castle, carrying Cerberus on his shoulders. He lowered the gigantic monster at the base of the city gates. When Eurystheus saw Cerberus, he was terrified and requested Hercules to return the beast, in exchange for the king freeing Hercules from his labors. Hercules let the beast free, and Cerberus returned to Hades and the underworld. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.